Jack grew up in poverty, where even a plate of food sometimes felt like a miracle. His parents, uneducated and weary, did every odd job they could find just to keep the family alive. They sacrificed their comfort to send him to school, hoping education would give him the life they never had. Jack never forgot where he came from, and he was determined to rise above it honestly. In school, he tutored classmates, washed clothes for extra cash, and still excelled academically. His discipline and drive set him apart, and everything seemed to be working out, until he met Thelma. Thelma wasn't rich, but she had expensive taste and a heart ruled by material desires. Jack fell for her instantly. To him, it was love. To her, he was a joke. "I can't be with a man like you," she said, laughing. "You're beneath me." But Jack wouldn't give up. He believed love could change her. Using what little he had saved, he bought her gifts and did everything to please her. Instead of softening, Thelma demanded more gifts, more money, more proof that he was worthy. Jack worked extra hours, losing sleep and peace just to keep her satisfied. Years later, they both graduated. Jack, full of hope, wanted to marry her. But Thelma crushed his dream with a cold response. "Marry you? No. Make real money first. I can't live in poverty." Heartbroken but motivated, Jack threw himself into job hunting. Eventually, fortune smiled on him. A high-paying job, a house, and a car. He felt on top of the world, and ready to propose to the woman he thought was his destiny. He loved her and envisioned a beautiful family together. What he didn't know was that in chasing her love, he was walking straight into the biggest mistake of his life. With a good job, a house, and a car, the first person he wanted to share the news with was Thelma. The same Thelma who once mocked his poverty now looked at him differently. Thelma smiled sweetly now, saying things like, "You've really changed, Jack. I'm proud of you." His once simple gifts had become designer handbags, his meals no longer from roadside stalls, but fine restaurants. Jack mistook her sudden warmth for love. When he proposed, she said yes, not because her heart had changed, but because she saw the life of luxury she'd always dreamed of. When Jack took her home to meet his parents, they welcomed her with open arms, but watched her closely. Thelma frowned at their modest home, barely touching the meal Jack's mother had prepared. After she left, his mother sighed deeply. "Son," she said gently, "that girl doesn't love you. She loves what you have." But Jack brushed it off. "Mama, you don't understand her like I do. She's changed." Blinded by love, he ignored every warning and married her. After the wedding, Jack was the happiest man alive. He treated Thelma like royalty, bought her expensive clothes, gave her money, took her on trips, and never let her lift a finger. But the more he gave, the more ungrateful she became. "This isn't enough," she would complain, frowning at the stack of cash. "Do you expect me to manage this?" Soon she was spending recklessly, shopping sprees, parties, and luxury items that left Jack struggling to pay bills. He could no longer send money home to his parents. When his mother fell sick, he had to borrow to help her. One day, broken and exhausted, he confided in his best friend, Matt. "Matt, I'm drowning. No matter what I give Thelma, it's never enough. I'm deep in debt." Matt looked at him calmly, "Then let her work. There's a vacancy at the company. Let her apply. If she wants to spend, she should earn it." Jack took the advice and helped her apply. But when he told Thelma, she yelled, "I don't want to work. Why should I when my husband can provide?" Jack sighed. "I'm not your bank, Thelma. If you want to live lavishly, then you have to make your own money." Reluctantly, she agreed. Jack even used his influence to secure the job for her after a poor interview performance. She became the personal assistant to billionaire Lawson, the company's powerful CEO. Jack was relieved. Finally, things would ease up. He believed she would now understand the value of money, but he had no idea that the opportunity he fought so hard to give her would destroy everything he had built. Thelma never truly wanted to work, but when she learned that she'd be working directly with the billionaire CEO, Mr. Lawson, her eyes lit up. To her, this wasn't just a job. It was a golden ticket. Lawson was everything she ever wanted in a man, powerful and incredibly wealthy. Most importantly, he was single. To her, this was a stepping stone to the life she truly craved. On her first day at work, she dressed in a tight-fitting gown that revealed more than it should. When Jack saw her, he frowned. "Thelma, you can't go to work dressed like that," he said. "You're a married woman. Please respect yourself." She rolled her eyes. Jack stopped being insecure. "It's just a dress. Don't tell me how to live my life." That was the first of many arguments. When she met Lawson in person, she was speechless. Pictures didn't do him justice. She wanted in, and she was determined to get in. Every chance she got, she made sure to walk past his office, her hips swaying deliberately. Lawson, though a known flirt, had been informed that she was married to one of his hard-working employees, no less. So he kept his distance, offering only polite smiles. But Thelma was not one to give up easily. She was used to getting what she wanted, and this time would be no different. Jack's colleagues began to notice. Whispers spread the way Thelma dressed and flirted. Out of concern, one of them told Jack. At first, he refused to believe it. "No," he said, "Thelma wouldn't do that. She's my wife." But curiosity nodded in, and one evening, he confronted her gently. "Thelma, people are talking. They say you're getting too close to Mr. Lawson. Please be careful. You're my wife, and I trust you, but I don't want you to be misunderstood." She burst into tears immediately. "So, that's what you think of me, Jack, that I'm cheating on you? After everything I've done to support you, you don't trust me anymore?" Jack's heart melted. No, that's not what I meant, Thelma. I'm sorry. I just don't want people to speak ill of you." Sniffling, she said, "Maybe I should just resign then, since you don't want me to work." He quickly shook his head. "No, please don't. I just want peace between us." That night, she smiled to herself, not because the misunderstanding was cleared, but because she knew Jack would never suspect her again. What Jack didn't know was that the woman he loved was already playing a dangerous game, one that would soon cost him more than he ever imagined. Just as Thelma predicted, Jack no longer suspected a thing. He loved her too much to see through her act, but her seductive tricks had failed miserably. The tight gowns, the perfume, none of it worked. Lawson was polite and distant. Every attempt to lure him only made her feel more invisible. That was when she switched strategies. If she couldn't win him with temptation, she'd win him with pity. Around the office, she was her usual cheerful self, but when Lawson was near, she became quiet, fragile, and distracted. She sighed often, pretending to be lost in thought, her eyes dim with sadness. She made sure he noticed, and he did. One afternoon, when Jack and a few of his colleagues were away for an important business meeting, Thelma seized her chance. She picked up a random file and made her way to Lawson's office, her expression deliberately troubled. "Sir," she said softly, "I brought the report you asked for." Lawson looked up, his eyes narrowing with concern. "Thelma, are you okay? You seemed off lately. What's wrong?" That question was her cue. She hesitated, then broke down, sobbing quietly, her voice trembling as she spoke. "I'm sorry, sir. It's just my marriage. Things at home have been terrible. Jack doesn't love me anymore. He yells. He says things that hurt. Sometimes he even," she paused, lowering her voice, "loses his temper and hits me." Lawson's face darkened with concern. "What? That's awful. You shouldn't have to go through that." She looked up at him, her tear-streaked face full of pain. "I try to hold on, but it's hard. I feel so alone." Moved by pity, Lawson stood up and walked toward her to comfort her. But as he reached out, Thelma stepped closer, too close. Their eyes met, the air thick with emotion. And in that single moment of weakness, he crossed the line he swore he never would. When it was over, the office felt smaller, quieter. Thelma straightened her dress. Lawson, on the other hand, sat behind his desk, drowning in guilt. She had won, but Thelma wasn't done. She kept feeding him her lies, painting herself as a broken woman trapped in a cruel marriage. Each story she told made Lawson more attached. Soon, guilt turned into affection, and affection into obsession. To protect their secret, Lawson promoted Jack and transferred into another branch. Jack was overjoyed, completely unaware it was all part of a cover-up. Meanwhile, Thelma's new life bloomed. They met constantly in hotels. Lawson spoiled her endlessly and Jack was completely in the... Thelma was living the life she craved. Lawson spoiled her endlessly and even bought her a brand new luxury car. Jack knew her salary couldn't afford such luxury, so he became uneasy. "Thelma," he said quietly one evening, staring at the expensive car in their driveway, "I know you don't earn this much. How can you afford all this?" She glared at him, offended. "So now you're jealous? You can't stand to see me doing better for myself?" Jack's voice was calm, almost pleading. "I just want to understand, that's all." She turned away, scoffing. "You never appreciate me. You just want me to stay beneath you." Jack sighed heavily, tired of the constant fights. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you." Thelma said nothing, just walked away with a faint, victorious smile. That night Jack sat awake, staring at the ceiling. Something in his heart whispered that things weren't as they seemed. But love blinded him. He didn't want to believe it. The affair burned hotter than ever, and soon Thelma began spending most nights away from home, claiming she had urgent work or overnight projects. Jack, ever the understanding husband, didn't question her too much. He trusted her, or at least tried to. Their home grew cold. Intimacy between them became rare. Whenever Jack reached for her, she would pull away, claiming exhaustion or stress. Months passed before Thelma discovered she was pregnant. Panic set in. The child wasn't Jack's. It was Lawson's. Her heart raced as she broke the news to her lover, secretly hoping he would take responsibility, perhaps even ask her to leave her husband and start a new life with him. But Lawson's reaction crushed her. He froze, his expression darkening. "You need to take care of it," he said coldly. To him, Thelma had always been nothing more than a temporary distraction, something thrilling but disposable. He couldn't afford a scandal, not with his position. Thelma's disappointment ran deep, but she masked it perfectly. She wasn't ready to lose Lawson, and she wasn't ready to face shame either. So she devised a plan, a cruel, calculated move to protect herself. That night, she returned home unusually affectionate. She cooked Jack's favorite meal, smiled sweetly, and for the first time in weeks, let him touch her. Jack, oblivious to the storm behind her gentle eyes, was overjoyed. To him, it felt like love rekindled, but to her, it was strategy, a trap carefully laid to pin another man's child on her unsuspecting husband. A plan that, once revealed, would shatter his heart beyond repair. The following week, Thelma maintained her new act of affection toward Jack. She was warm and unusually attentive. She took a temporary break from Lawson, telling him she needed time to fix the pregnancy issue. Lawson didn't question her methods. He wanted nothing to do with a potential scandal. When she requested a few weeks off work, he granted it without hesitation, grateful for the distance. At home, Thelma told Jack she wanted to take some time off to rest and reconnect with him after all the stress from work. Jack, completely unaware of her ulterior motives, was thrilled. Their intimacy rekindled, and Jack's heart swelled with hope. He believed love had found its way back into their marriage. A month later, Thelma broke the news she was pregnant. Jack's joy knew no bounds. He lifted her into his arms. "Thank you, Thelma," he whispered. "You've given me everything I ever wanted." From that day, Jack became even more devoted. He wouldn't let her lift a finger. He handled chores, made her breakfast every morning, and ensured she was comfortable before heading to work. His love for her deepened with every passing day. while hers grew colder beneath the mask she wore. Despite the affection she received at home, Thelma missed the thrill, the luxury, and the passion she shared with Lawson. The quiet evenings with Jack bored her, so one afternoon she reached out to Lawson, unable to resist temptation any longer. They met at their usual hotel, and the moment she stepped through the door, the air between them ignited. Hours of wild, forbidden passion followed. Afterwards, as they lay tangled in sheets, Lawson turned to her lazily and asked, "So, what did you do about the pregnancy?" Thelma smiled slyly. "I made Jack believe it's his." A slow, pleased grin spread across Lawson's face. "Good," he said, brushing a kiss across her lips. "Smart girl." And just like that, their toxic affair resumed. Even as her belly grew, so did her deceit. Jack begged her to take another leave to rest, but she refused, claiming she didn't want to be idle. The truth was, she couldn't give up the expensive gifts and money Lawson showered her with whenever they met. To Thelma, Lawson was her ideal man, the man who gave her everything she desired. Jack, on the other hand, was nearly her cover, the loving husband unknowingly raising another man's child. He cared for her and protected her with all his heart, never realizing that the woman he loved so deeply was nothing more than a beautiful devil in disguise. As months passed, Jack's excitement over the baby only grew stronger. He attended every prenatal appointment with Thelma. To him, this pregnancy was a second chance, the miracle that would restore their fading marriage. To Thelma, it was nearly a well-played performance. When Thelma gave birth to a baby boy, Jack's happiness overflowed. He held the tiny bundle in his arms, whispering, "You're my world now." He immediately called his parents, who rushed down to the hospital. When Jack's mother held the newborn, her heart melted, but something caught her attention. The baby's features didn't resemble Jack in the slightest. Still, she brushed off her doubts. "He's a newborn," she told herself. "Babies change as they grow." Thelma, however, felt no such maternal warmth. Motherhood wasn't in her plans, not when her heart still belonged to Lawson. The moment her 6-week recovery period ended, he returned to work, claiming she didn't want to lose her professional edge. In truth, she couldn't stay away from her secret lover. Jack was worried. He didn't understand why Thelma seemed detached from their child. He took a leave from work to care for the baby himself, convinced she might be battling postpartum depression. He read books, watched parenting videos, and even joined a father's group online, anything to make things easier for her. But Thelma wasn't depressed. She was distracted. Every free moment she had, she spent in Lawson's arms, wrapped in luxury, far from the cries of the son she barely acknowledged. One evening, Jack confronted her gently. "Thelma," he said, his voice calm but weary, "this child needs you. I understand work is important, but please, try to spend some time with him. He needs his mother." Instead of remorse, Thelma snapped, "So you want me to throw away the career I worked hard for because I gave birth? Never. You take care of him or hire someone who will." Her coldness pierced Jack's heart, but he said nothing. He hired a nanny to help while he returned to work. Every night, he would come home to feed, bathe, and sing to his son, while Thelma came in late, often smelling of perfume that wasn't hers. A year passed, and the little boy's laughter became Jack's only source of joy. Meanwhile, Thelma's affair with Lawson continued until fate dealt her a brutal blow. One afternoon, after hours of wild passion at their usual hotel, Lawson broke the news casually. "My fiancé is back," he said, buttoning his shirt. "We're getting married soon, so this thing between us has to end." Thelma froze, disbelief flashing in her eyes. "What? You can't be serious, Lawson, after everything we've shared." Lawson gave a cold, indifferent chuckle. "Thelma, it was fun. You knew what this was. You're married, remember. I can't marry you." He scribbled a check. "Take it. For old time's sake," he said. Tears filled Thelma's eyes as humiliation burned through her. You used me, she whispered, trembling. Lawson smiled faintly. You wanted this as much as I wanted it to, so we both used ourselves. And with that, he walked out, leaving her shattered. The days that followed were nothing short of torment for Thelma. She couldn't believe Lawson had walked away from her, worse still, that he had a fiancé she knew nothing about. She had been ready to divorce Jack in a heartbeat if Lawson had asked. She had dreamed of a life with him, a home filled with love, comfort, and wealth. But all that vanished overnight. Reality hit hard. How would she maintain her lavish lifestyle now? Jack's salary couldn't afford the luxuries she was used to, and even the check Lawson gave her would dry up fast with her kind of spending. To make matters worse, she hadn't seen Lawson since that day, and then came another blow, a transfer letter. She was being moved to the same branch where her husband Jack worked. She couldn't believe it. Jack, on the other hand, was overjoyed. To him, it meant they could finally spend more time together. But Thelma felt trapped. Days later, she began feeling ill. At first, she brushed it off. But when her period didn't come, dread settled in. A pregnancy test confirmed her fears. She was pregnant. Thelma stood in the bathroom, trembling, staring at the positive result. The child was Lawson's. With Lawson gone and no one to turn to, she couldn't risk the shame that would follow if the truth came out. She made a quick decision. She would resign, and she did after informing Jack, who supported her. To him, the job drifted them away, and just like before, Thelma played her role perfectly. She became affectionate again, just as she did when she first tricked him into believing her son was his. When she finally announced her pregnancy a month later, Jack was overjoyed and aware that, once again, he was celebrating another man's child. But karma was close, and she didn't see it coming. Because actions have consequences, and the truth cannot be hidden forever. Months slipped by, and Thelma's belly grew rounder with life. Jack was the happiest man alive. He doted on her every day, cooking her favorite meals, massaging her feet, and working extra hours to give her the comfort she deserved. He laughed more, smiled more, and each time he touched her growing stomach, his heart melted. When the doctor announced she was carrying twins, Jack almost cried. Twins, Thelma, can you believe it? He said repeatedly. God blessed us double. Thelma forced a smile. On the outside, she played the role of a happy wife. But inside, her heart was a storm. Every night she lay beside Jack, she saw Lawson's face, his laughter, his touch, his voice. Then one quiet afternoon, she was scrolling through her phone when she froze. Her breath caught. Her heartbeat stumbled. Lawson's pre-wedding pictures. There he was, the man who once held her body, her secrets, her heart, now smiling beside another woman in matching attire. Thelma's hands trembled as tears welled in her eyes. Her throat tightened. How could he? After everything they shared, after everything she gave up. Days later, social media was flooded with their wedding photos. It was the talk of the town. Even Jack had attended the ceremony, returning home beaming. You should have seen the decorations, Thelma, he said cheerfully. The bride was so beautiful. Enough, she snapped, eyes blazing. I said I don't want to hear it. Jack blinked, stunned by her sudden outburst, but he said nothing. He simply thought the pregnancy hormones were affecting her mood. He didn't know the real reason, that the woman he adored was breaking silently inside. For weeks, Thelma drifted through her days like a ghost. She barely ate, barely spoke, barely smiled. She wasn't jealous of Celia, she was broken. Lawson had been her world, her thrill, her dream, and now he belonged to someone else. Then fate played its cruelest card. Just a month into Lawson's honeymoon, tragedy struck. The news spread like wildfire. A ghastly car accident. Celia died on the spot, and Lawson barely survived. Every news outlet carried the story, but none mentioned the full truth. The headlines spoke only of his survival, and his wife's death. But a darker reality hit. The accident had damaged him severely. He could no longer father a child. The family buried that fact deep, keeping it out of the public eye. Only his doctors and a few close aides knew. To the world, Lawson was lucky to be alive, but to him, it felt like death in disguise. Thelma's phone shook in her hand as she read the news about Lawson's accident. Her heart pounded wildly, and instead of sadness, she felt a strange wave of excitement. Maybe this was fate's way of returning him to her. Without a second thought, she dressed up, took her little boy, and rushed to the hospital. When Lawson saw her standing by the door heavily pregnant, carrying a child who looked just like him, tears filled his eyes. He struggled to sit up, his voice breaking. "This is my boy." "Yes," Thelma whispered. He pulled them both into his trembling arms, kissing the child's forehead. "And you're pregnant again for Jack?" She smiled, her voice soft. "Twins, they're yours too." Lawson was elated. He smiled as he whispered, "I thought I'd lost everything, but you gave me something to live for again." Thelma smiled silently against his shoulder. "You left me when I needed you most, Lawson," she whispered, "but I never stopped loving you." "I'm sorry," he breathed. "I promise to make things right this time. You and our children, you're all I have now." For the first time in months, Thelma smiled, genuinely. She felt chosen again, wanted again. Lawson wasn't just grateful. He was possessive. He wanted his children back. He wanted Thelma back. And if Jack stood in the way, then Jack had to go. A chilling calmness settled in Lawson's mind as he watched Thelma. He would take back everything, even if it meant blood would have to spill. When Thelma left the hospital, she felt a light, dangerous thrill. Lawson was back, and with him came the certainty that what was hers would finally be hers again. She caressed her swollen belly as if smoothing the future itself, his children, not Jack's. Her thoughts drifted lazily to Jack, his soft face, the way he worshipped their little boy, and she let herself imagine the moment he would learn the truth. The shock, the disbelief, the helpless anger, the slow, quiet collapse of everything he'd built his life upon. She didn't feel guilt. Guilt was for weak women, and Thelma had never been weak. Instead, a small, satisfied smile curved her lips. Jack would have to accept it. He had no choice. If he refused, Lawson would take care of it, pay him off, silence him, or make sure he couldn't fight back. Back in the hospital room, Lawson's momentary relief hardened into something darker, a precise, calculating plan. Sitting upright, his gaze cold and deliberate, he mapped it all out in his mind. He would first offset Jack, making it appear as though the company was going through a mass downsizing. A broke poor man cannot fight, he thought wickedly. Lawson imagined the humiliation. Jack returning home jobless, confused, still trusting the lie. "It's just business," people would say. "The company is cutting costs, and no one would ever suspect the truth." Then, once Thelma gave birth, once his babies arrived, Lawson would perfect the rest of his plan. He would quietly erase Jack's place in Thelma's life completely. No scandal, no confrontation, just quiet disappearance. By then, Jack would be too broken, too powerless to fight. Lawson leaned back, a faint smile curving his lips. This was the only way to reclaim his children, and Jack just had to pay the price. 3 weeks passed swiftly. Lawson hadn't executed his plan yet. He wanted to be discharged first and regain his full strength. During those weeks, Thelma visited him often, always with her little boy in tow. The hospital room had become their secret haven, a place where they whispered dangerous dreams and plotted the fall of an unsuspecting man. One afternoon, as she fed Lawson fruit from a bowl, he outlined his plan in a calm, deliberate tone. "I'll make sure Jack is completely cut off," he said. "No job, no influence, no dignity. He'll be broke and helpless exactly where I want him." Thelma's lips curved into a faint smile. "Anything I have to sacrifice to be with you is worth it," she murmured. "I want you, Lawson, only you." When Lawson was finally discharged, he wasted no time. A public notice was released, company to undergo major downsizing due to restructuring. It sounded legitimate, even compassionate. Jack saw the news online later that evening. "They're letting go of a lot of people," he said, showing Thelma his phone. "But I'm confident I'll be spared. I've brought in too many contracts for them to let me go." Thelma smiled faintly, hiding her satisfaction. "Of course, you'll be fine," she said softly. But her heart throbbed with dark anticipation. The next morning, Jack walked into the office as usual, unaware that the ground beneath his feet was about to crumble. Minutes after settling at his desk, HR called him in. "Mr. Jack, I regret to inform you that your position has been terminated due to company restructuring. Please return the company car and vacate the official residence within 48 hours. Jack froze, his voice trembling. "I've won contracts that kept this company alive. Why me?" "It's nothing personal," he said flatly. He walked out in a daze, his world collapsing in slow motion. Jack couldn't believe it. He had invested so much hard work into the company. Why would they do this to him? How would he meet his wife's high demands? He thought as he headed home. When he got home, Thelma was in the living room scrolling through her phone. He stood by the doorway, shoulders slumped, face pale. "What's wrong?" she asked, pretending concern. "I got sacked," Jack said quietly. "They took my car, and we have to leave the company house. Everything I've worked for, gone." His eyes glistened. "My savings can't sustain us for long, Thelma. And you're pregnant with twins. How am I supposed to care for you, our son, and the babies?" Thelma sighed softly, walking up to him with a rehearsed frown. "It's okay, babe. You'll get another job. Everything will be fine." Jack hugged her tightly, sobbing against her shoulder. She patted his back gently, her face cold and unreadable over his shoulder. After a while, he whispered, "We'll have to move in with my parents for now. I can't afford a new place until I find another job." Thelma stiffened. "No, Jack. That house is too poor. I can't live there." "It's only temporary," he pleaded. "Please, until things get better." She hesitated for a long time before finally nodding. "Fine," she muttered. 2 days later, they packed what little they had and moved into his parents' modest home. His mother welcomed them with open arms. That evening, after dinner, Jack told his parents everything. They comforted him and assured him things would turn around soon. Exhausted, he went to bed. But later that night, when the house grew quiet, Thelma carefully slipped out of bed. She tiptoed into the living room, dialed Lawson's number, and whispered, "Hello, my love," she whispered, her voice low and soft. "Our plan is working perfectly. We're staying at his parents' place now. Make sure he doesn't get any job offers. I don't want him to rise again. Once he's completely down, we'll have everything be you and our children." Lawson chuckled darkly on the other end. "Don't worry, my darling. I'll make sure every door stays shut. No one will hire him." Thelma smiled smugly. "Good. I can't wait to finally be yours, without anything standing in the way." She hung up quietly and tiptoed back to bed, unaware that someone had been listening. Behind the curtain, Jack's mother stood frozen, her heart pounding. She had heard every word, the betrayal, the plotting, the deception. Her knees nearly gave way as tears filled her eyes. Jack's mother stood in shock. She couldn't believe it. She had warned her son, but he didn't listen. She knew Jack loved Thelma too deeply, too blindly to believe her without proof. So she wiped her tears, steadied herself, and made a silent vow. She would watch closely, gather every truth, and expose Thelma's evil, even if it shattered her son's heart. Because no matter how blind love was, a mother's eyes always saw the truth. The next morning, Jack set out to find work. He couldn't bear to stay idle, not with a pregnant wife and child depending on him. "I have to keep trying," he told himself, walking from office to office, enduring rejection after rejection, but never giving up. At home, Thelma lounged comfortably, laughing and chatting with her lover Lawson. Jack's mother was restless, her heart pounding at every sound. She watched, listened, and waited. She dared not tell anyone, not even her husband. Not yet. Each evening, Jack came home shattered. "No one's hiring," he would say, forcing a smile through the weight of defeat. Still, he kept trying. On some days, when Jack was out job hunting, Thelma would take her son along, pretending to go shopping. In truth, she was meeting Lawson. She still drove the sleek car he had given her, proud and untouchable. Each stolen moment with him deepened her hatred for Jack and her desire to become Mrs. Lawson. Jack's mother knew deep down that Thelma was meeting her lover, but she had no proof. The thought tormented her day and night. Then one afternoon, during one of Thelma's secret meetings, Lawson spoke coldly. "Jack can't keep living. If we want peace and no scandal, he must go quietly." Thelma hesitated for a heartbeat, then nodded. "Poison?" she whispered. "That way no one will ever suspect." They agreed to wait until after her delivery. A month later, Thelma gave birth to twin girls, beautiful, healthy babies. Jack was overwhelmed with joy. He held her hands and wept. "Thank you for standing by me," he said softly. "I'll rebuild our life, I promise." Thelma smiled sweetly, hiding the darkness behind her eyes. To her, the babies meant freedom and Lawson. But Jack's mother wasn't smiling. The past weeks had been torture. She could feel danger closing in, yet she couldn't act without proof. So she swallowed her fear and played along, praying for the right moment to expose the truth, before her son's love became his death. When Jack and his mother left, Thelma quickly called Lawson, her voice trembling with excitement. "It's done," she whispered. "I've given birth." "Good," Lawson replied coldly. "Once you're discharged, meet me at our usual spot. You'll get what you need, the poison." Unbeknownst to her, Jack's mother stood outside the door, frozen. Poison, the word echoed in her head as terror gripped her heart. She knew she had to act fast. Her son's life was in danger. A week later, Thelma was discharged. She told her in-law and husband she was going out for toiletries, but drove straight to meet Lawson. He was waiting in his car, a wicked smile on his face, as he handed her a small bottle. "Just a few drops," he said. "Once he eats, it's over." Back home, Jack's meal was already on the table. Seeing no one around, Thelma poured the poison in and went to cuddle her babies, humming softly as she waited. Jack came out moments later, tired but cheerful. "Smells good," he said, sitting to eat while his mother quietly watched. Midway through the meal, his spoon dropped, his body went stiff, then limp. His mother screamed, "Jack!" rushing to him. Thelma fell to the floor in fake tears. "What did you feed him? You've killed my husband!" she cried as Jack's father dashed in. They called an ambulance, and within minutes, Jack was rushed away with his parents beside him. When the house fell silent, Thelma wiped her fake tears and called Lawson. "It's done," she whispered. "He's dead now." "Where are his parents?" he asked. "Gone to the morgue," she replied coldly. "I'm coming over." 30 minutes later, Lawson arrived. Thelma ran into his arms, kissing him passionately. "We're finally free," she breathed. But the door suddenly burst open. Jack's parents stood there pale and broken. Thelma froze, then quickly forced tears. "This is Jack's former boss," she stammered. "He came to comfort me." Lawson quickly put on a mask of concern. "How's his condition?" he asked softly. Jack's mother stared at them. "He's dead," she said. Her heart burned with grief and fury. "So this is the man my son's wife betrayed him with," she thought. Walking slowly to her room with her husband, Lawson took it as his cue to leave. He leaned closer to Thelma and whispered, "Meet me at our usual place soon." He was glad Jack was out of the way. Now he needed to get rid of Thelma. He didn't want her. She was just a plaything, but he couldn't tell her that. He wanted only his children, and no one was going to stop him. Lawson thought about the best possible way to get rid of Thelma. He didn't love her. He couldn't be with a woman who was willing and comfortable killing her husband for a lover. What if the tables turned? She could easily do the same to him without blinking an eyelid. He only needed his children, and he knew he couldn't get them if he refused to marry her. So, he had only played along. Now that her husband Jack was out of the way, he would poison her too. That way, he could easily get his children, he thought. He reached out to Thelma, urging her to come, under the guise that they could finalize their plan. Thelma, who couldn't even wait to be his, packed her bags. She didn't see the need to go and come back. After all, Jack was dead, she thought. So, she carried her twin babies and her little son, ready to leave without looking back. Jack's parents watched in confusion. "Thelma, where are you going?" Jack's mother asked. "I'm leaving," Thelma replied carelessly, avoiding their eyes. Jack's father frowned. "Why? It's barely a week since our son died. You can't leave like that, and you can't take his children." Thelma stopped and turned sharply, her expression cold. "Which children?" she asked mockingly. "These children are not Jack's. Please." "What?" Jack's mother gasped. "I think it's time you knew the truth," Thelma said. "Jack was impotent. He couldn't father a child. He begged me to find someone to get me pregnant, and I refused at first, but he became depressed, so I did it. Now that he's dead, my children can't live this miserable life. Their father is a billionaire. Why should they suffer when they can have the best life?" Jack's parents stood frozen, disbelief painted on their faces. "That's a lie," Jack's mother screamed, trembling. "My son was not impotent. He would never ask you to do such a thing." Thelma smiled cruelly. "And who will believe that? Jack is dead and can't defend himself." Jack's father, still in shock, managed to ask, "Is your boss the children's biological father?" Thelma smirked. "Seems you're not as dull as I thought," she said. Jack's parents stood rooted in place. She entered her car, and her newly employed driver helped with her luggage. They arrived Lawson's mansion shortly after. The maid came forward to take the babies. Once inside, Thelma turned to Lawson. "I've sorted everything," she said proudly. "Jack's parents now know the children are yours." Lawson's expression darkened instantly. "I told you to meet me alone, not bringing your bags or the children, and definitely not to tell them," he snapped. Thelma's smile faded. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Lawson exhaled heavily and forced a smile. "It's okay," he said calmly. He poured her a glass of juice and handed it to her. "Let's celebrate. We're finally together now." Relieved, Thelma smiled again, taking the glass and drinking deeply. "We're finally free," she murmured. As she finished gulping down the last of the juice, Lawson smirked. "Thelma, I'm sorry, but this has to end." "What do you mean?" she asked, trying to understand. "The juice you just drank is poisoned," he said coldly. Thelma laughed nervously. "You're joking, right?" "I mean every word," Lawson replied. "I can't be with you, Thelma. You are a sorry excuse for a woman and a mother. You killed your husband without blinking an eyelid. I must be damned to marry you. I know you wouldn't let me have the kids if I didn't marry you. So I used you to get rid of Jack. Now I'm getting rid of you. Jack's illiterate parents won't be able to do anything," he said, smiling wickedly. Thelma was shocked. The effects of the poison were already taking place. She held her stomach in pain, her heart heavy with regret. "All I did was because I loved you and," she groaned, "you ruined me. My husband Jack gave me all I wanted, but I chose you. Now you poisoned me." She screamed in pain. The door burst open suddenly. Standing there were Jack alive, his parents, and several police officers. The building was surrounded. Lawson tried to run, but a gun was pointed at him, so he froze, shaking. "It's her fault. I'm innocent," he shouted. Thelma froze. "Jack," she gasped weakly. "You're alive." "How?" Tears welled in Jack's eyes as he stepped forward. "So, you really poisoned me," he said painfully. "I loved you, Thelma. I gave you everything. You cheated on me, got pregnant for my boss, ruined my career, and tried to kill me. Why, what did I ever do to you? Jack continued, his voice breaking. Even the children I thought were mine turned out to be another. You told my parents I was impotent. How cruel. I worked hard. I tried to give you the very best, but this is what I get, he said in tears. God bless my mother for saving me. She overheard your phone call with Lawson about the poison. The day you left, she prepared 2 plates of food. When you came back and poisoned mine, she switched them. The one I ate only had sleeping pills, enough to make you think I was dead. Lawson stood silently, guilt washing over him. Finally, he spoke. How much do you want, Jack? Let's end this here. I didn't really want this. I'm really sorry. Jack's voice thundered with fury as he glared at Lawson. You think this is about money? He roared, his chest heaving. You tried to kill me. What if I had died, Lawson? Would you throw money at my corpse too? His voice cracked, anger and heartbreak blending into one. You two will pay for this, every bit of it. Thelma's body trembled as tears streamed down her cheeks. I'm sorry, Jack, she whispered, her voice shaking. I just wanted more from life. I thought happiness lived in riches, not in love. She clutched her chest, gasping, but I see now. You were my biggest blessing. A cry escaped her lips as she coughed violently, blood spilling from her mouth. I'm sorry. Jack's rage melted instantly into panic. Thelma, he shouted, rushing to her side. What's happening? Are you okay? Her eyes fluttered weakly. You poisoned me, she gasped, pointing toward Lawson before her body went limp in Jack's arms. Jack's world spun. You poisoned her, he bellowed, turning on Lawson with eyes burning in disbelief. Somebody help her. His knees hit the floor as he cradled her. Thelma, please stay with me, he sobbed, his tears falling on her lifeless face. Don't go, not like this. The police officers, who had already surrounded Lawson after his earlier attempt to escape, finally spoke out. Lawson Gray, you are under arrest for attempted murder, one said firmly as another cuffed him. Lawson's face turned pale with shock, realizing there was no way out this time. Thelma was rushed toward the hospital, but she never made it. Her heart gave out on the way, burdened with regret, broken dreams, and the ghost of love she had betrayed. Days later, the court's verdict echoed through the room. Lawson Gray sentenced to death by hanging for Thelma's murder and the attempted murder of Jack. Weeks passed, but Jack's pain did not. He stood alone by Thelma's grave in silent tears. You broke me, Thelma, he whispered, voice trembling. But I still wish you peace. He still loved Thelma. He had forgiven her. But he had also come to the realization that their love was never meant to be. He turned and walked away, his heart heavy, his spirit hollow. He left the town behind, the lies, the betrayal, the memories that refused to fade, hoping that somewhere far away he could find himself again. The end. Like, comment, and subscribe for more stories.